Good morning. My name is Bill Frazer, and my family and I have been attending First Congregational Church of Glen, Ellyn since around 1999. So a couple of weeks ago, I was asked to give a testimony on the topic of giving. At first, I thought that Seth and the committee had maybe made a mistake and confused me with somebody else, as I typically try to keep a low profile and hide up in the safety of the balcony with my friends and family. My second thought was that Seth had based his speaker selections on those with lackluster church attendance, which may have placed me near the top of his list. And my third and final thought was that I was selected because we all have a story to tell. And here is mine. I was raised in the northern suburbs, about 40 minutes from here, and brought up in the Episcopalian church. My father was not a minister, but based on the number of services we attended, the time, the energy, and the sweat equity that he dedicated toward his church, it often felt like he was the guy trying to run the church. Now, as a child and teenager, I remember countless weekends and evenings when our entire family would be at the church helping to prepare for a service, working at a church fundraiser, performing maintenance on the grounds. And one time, he even volunteered us to help shovel the snow off the roof of the church during the snowstorm of 1979. So these types of activities, along with serving multiple roles as part of the church government and singing in the choir for over 40 years, was how my dad spent his time and a lot of our family's time. It was truly his passion, and one that I didn't quite understand until well after his death in 2013. As background, my dad was a salesman. His career enabled us to have a modest middle-class home, and it helped to put my sister and me through college with relatively small student loans to pay back. Our vacations, well, they were typically to places that we could drive to, but never anything luxurious or extravagant. During those years and up until his death, my father always made generous financial contributions and pledges to the church. And these increased as his health began to fail and he could no longer contribute to many of the physical tasks required at the church. I often wonder what drove my dad to place such a strong and intentional focus toward his beloved church and his faith. When it came time for a donation of time, service, or money, he always gave more than he could spare. And often this came at the expense of things like family time, maybe a new car for him, or taking on more responsibility at work. But that didn't matter to him. He truly experienced joy through his act of giving, and this was his priority. He became one with his church, and as he neared the end of his life, it was the entire church that came together to comfort him and me as he passed away. The church truly gave him more than he ever gave to it, and as a result, he was blessed. So what does this have to do with me and my testimony? I'm not my father. Indeed, we're quite different in many, many ways. But I'd say I'm similar to him, and probably many of you, in my desire to give back and help others. By a show of hands, who recently made a New Year's resolution? Okay, fair. Now again, by a show of hands, how many of you managed to keep your resolutions thus far into 2018? All right, comfort in numbers. I mean, I'm the same way, right? So every year, I too make resolutions. And for the past few years, I've made the same one and failed to keep it. I always say, I want to be more charitable and give more of my time and money to others. My family and I, like many in Glen Ellyn, are blessed with many possessions and experiences. And I can also say I've surpassed my father in the area of spending time with my family, friends, and acquiring things, but not in the area of giving or spiritual satisfaction. In that regard, he's been far more successful than I. Too often, my resolution to be more charitable and give back gets pushed to the back burner and is replaced by work commitments, social obligations, family activities, and maybe, if I'm lucky, a little bit of selfish me time. So year after year, my energy and my focus toward things like my career, well, it enables me to acquire more things, do more fun activities, and see more friends, but it all comes at the expense of keeping my resolution to myself. So this year, I'm channeling my Father. In order to achieve my resolution and give back with more intention, I've put my spiritual life and the church first, and I'm letting the rest of my life fill in the gaps that remain. For example, I've wanted to be an adult counselor on the high school work camp trip for the past few years, but something always seems to get in the way, or it's not the best time for me to go. So this year, I blocked my calendar 6 months in advance. I've already submitted my vacation request at work for the 9 days in June when I'll be joining Kendra and her amazing team of teenagers on a fantastic trip to help others in Appalachia. Work, friends, family, and other obligations will simply need to fill in around this important event. So to close, I'd tell you that being intentional about where you place the church, your spirituality, and your giving within your life's own priority list is the only way to ensure you are doing and giving all you can. As I reflect back upon the life of my father, I see that he did indeed receive more from his church, from his choir, and his fellow parishioners than he ever felt he gave or sacrificed over that 40-year span. And that is truly a blessed life, and one that I am striving to learn from each and every day. Amen.